the life changes associated with Christina's injury, was the realization that a whole set of relational questions that were related to our queer lives and her injury specifically had a lot to do with much more heteronormative lives and how they might be reorganized in ways that would make both work and life a lot easier. And so that's what this piece is from, and it also tells a little bit of our story. And then I will turn it over to Christina, who will read the continuation of the story effectively. And then we'll have some conversation about universal access and universal relationality in the sense of being able to have multiple forms of relation that would be easier to sustain for many, many people. So that's where we're going to go. In all, Christina went through 2 major surgeries and 5 additional procedures for which I had to sign. But the question is, who will be made to pay for that life in terms of either money or care or both? In other words, the main underlying question is what the insurance company can legally deny to you. And the way for the insurance company most successfully to save itself money is not to isolate the patient, which is the strategy used by the ICU, but to place her under care, preferably mine. Many of our friends asked us if we experienced homophobia through this process, but I can honestly say that we did not. There were undoubtedly many reasons for this. For example, many of the people we worked with were truly wonderful people. But I would also speculate that one reason was that they, the hospital, the insurance company, the medical system, and Wesleyan University, where Christina worked, needed my labor. And the way to ensure my labor in support of her recovery and in support of her eventual return to work was to make me a member of her family. Thus, willing or not, we were made into a family. I went through family sessions to teach me how to care for Christina at home. Upon Christina's departure from the hospital, I received a sheaf of prescriptions, including those for seriously controlled substances, to purchase and dispense for her. And then Christina was released to my care. All of this occurred without any legal documentation on the part of the rehab hospital as to our relationship. As I mentioned, they never asked to see the power of attorney. What they needed was not this document, but a family. I was there, so I was the family. The purpose of making me into Christina's family was simple and straightforward. It was to appropriate my labor to make me the person who, when not providing labor myself, would be asked to coordinate all other forms of care, whether volunteer care, of which there has been a lot, thanks to a wide network of loving friends and family and colleagues, or whether it would be paid care, of which there has also been a lot. We have been very fortunate that Donna Collier, who worked with Christina in the hospital, and her sister Shannon Upshur have been willing to continue working with Christina since she came home, and this is still in fact true. Yet as a United Way worker told me directly when Christina first came home, when these forms of care fail, I am ultimately responsible. My point is not that this labor shouldn't happen or that I don't want to do it. Some of it is quite pleasurable. I enjoy Christina's company, and I predict you will too. I have been driven throughout this process by the desire to be with Christina. My point is not that this labor or any kind of domestic labor is bad or not enjoyable. My point is that it doesn't have to be organized this way. For example, the labor involved in Christina's care does not have to be set up so as to isolate her or me. And I then go on to develop this critique of relationality and the family form and its privatization as part of a broader sense of privatization and the way that that works with or fits with the structure of work. But what we're interested in today and what we're hoping to talk about is a little bit of a happier story, although I will gladly return to the queer critique of privatization, should you like to go there, but is about world making and how we've built a life. And so without further ado, I will turn it over to Christina.
I'm going to start with the epigraph to the book, which is a poem by Emily Dickinson, which I silently quote in my subtitle, which is Living On After Great Pain. After great pain, a formal feeling comes. The nerves sit ceremonious, like tombs. The stiff heart questions, was it he that bore, and yesterday or centuries before? The feet mechanical go round a wooden way of ground or air or aught, regardless grown, a quartz contentment like a stone. This is the hour of lead, remembered if outlived, as freezing persons recollect the snow. First chill, then stupor, then the letting go. After great pain is very clearly not a time of release. It's a beginning, and I would say that it is the beginning of living on. And since we're talking about relationality, I thought that I would read for you the sex chapter. So this is chapter 12, and it's called I'm Your Physical Lover. When Maggie walked into the hospital room, she said, "You're beautiful." I didn't believe her, but I loved her for saying it nonetheless. 9 years earlier, she had been my student, and now we were friends. I read her books of poetry as she began to publish, and felt deep satisfaction as she made her way to success as a writer. When I got to the rehab hospital, she started driving up every other weekend to Middletown from New York City, where she repeatedly borrowed a car so as to come to my side. Janet needed time away from the hospital, so Maggie would spell her for the weekends, staying with me Saturday afternoons and Sunday mornings. She moved to Middletown to teach for a year at Wesleyan and was here to help and support us for months and months after I came home. In that time, she too suffered and endured the blank unbecoming that is the sign of a deeply felt love betrayed. I loved Maggie before the accident, and 2 years of intensely heightened intimacy profoundly confirmed that love. She was a writer and a teacher, and in that time we talked about a world of things: sex, desire, bodies, heartbreak, language, love, poetry. I was devastated with pain. Neurological destruction made a wilderness of my body. I was in an agony of grief. Being Maggie's friend in this time took me out of myself, and I will be forever grateful. In this passage from a long 6-page lyric poem addressed to me, Halo over the Hospital, she represents one of our exchanges in the rehab hospital. The halo was made by the brilliant yellow leaves of the trees around the building that were illuminated by the sun one day in November 2003. This is Maggie. Later, I sit on the bed and tell you a little bit about my love life, about the person I'm trying not to be in love with. You asked if we went home and fucked, and I say we did, and you are happy. And I love the way the word fuck comes out of your wired mouth, as if fuck will always bubble out of a metal forest. I tell you a little more, and you say, good for fucking, bad for future planning. You say I don't have to be ashamed of my desire, not for sex, not for language. You say that you learned that by age 50 that you need them both together, and that you and Jay have that. You've been so happy. Crying now, you say, all I can think is that if we built it once, we can build it again. And I know you will, and I tell you so. The idea of fucking still makes me happy. Its Anglo-Saxon frankness is closer, I think, to the pleasures of sex than the anodyne phrase, making love. And the possessive register of having sex is all wrong. It has you as much as you have it. Janet and I did once again build a durable life bridging swift and treacherous currents. Irremediable grief remains, however, a still powerful force, and I feel its deep tug every day. For me, fucking is so changed from what it once was that, try as I may, I cannot reconcile myself to my losses. How can I settle for a life with deadened sensation that decrees I'll never again have an orgasm? How can I live on with profoundly compromised strength and tactile perception, especially in my hands? how I miss the way sex used to feel, how I miss feeling my entire body, every molecule, every atom, every subatomic particle, every Higgs boson moved by desire. My hands used to be strong and capable, and I used them to good purpose in sex, no more. Nor can I move my body with any ease or pleasure. I can't even roll over in bed. I have to pull myself into a sitting position, cross one leg over the other, look back over the opposite shoulder, reach that arm backward at extension to support my weight, and with my other arm hook my crossed leg at the knee to draw it toward me, which will turn my hips when I lie back down. I feel my losses so acutely because Janet and I enjoyed a sex life, I love that phrase, that was really thrilling. For quite some time after we became lovers, we kept the futon down in the living room rather than have it masquerade as a sofa, because we so often turned to fucking as we would talk, read, or watch football on TV. Thrills are a kind of peak intensity, and it's true that futon living, as we called it, couldn't go on forever. After a while, we returned the furniture to its more public posture. The real thrill, however, was unabated, and that was the exciting possibility of an ever-renewable resource, always available to us, an affirmation of intertwined and amplifying love and desire. This is Maggie again.